day 21 of what I'm anticipating and hopefully will be a 92-day juice fast. Just really wanted to do a video here to share with you people about fasting, juice fasting anyway, or juice cleanse, let's call it, because you're still getting nutrients. And just really wanted to hit some major milestones here, like, you know, talk about the key things that have happened so far and the benefits and if it's been difficult and all that. And just straight off the top of my head, I would say I had 4 hours sleep last night, got up to go to the loo this morning and just thought I'll stay awake, which is totally unlike me. Normally I would be just, oh God, you know, straight back to bed and oversleeping if I'm not at work. Like, when I'm, especially in the winter, when I'm not at work, I'm typically oversleeping all the time. So much more energy, I can't even explain it, it's crazy. When your body's not having to digest, you know, I can't remember the stat, but the number of calories that it takes for your body to digest every day is significant. It's like something like half of your average daily calorific intake, even for an athlete. I think I heard that somewhere. But whatever it is, it's significant. And so you just end up with loads more energy. I've had some interesting healing symptoms. In the first week I had a runny nose, I had mild flu-like symptoms, but really mild. It was not difficult to cope with. I was working for 2 weeks out of the last 3 weeks, all day, like as a live-in carer, that's what I do. And sometimes that involves a lot of calorific output, a lot of physical moving around, moving things, going on bike rides with my client and stuff. So, and it's totally been possible. It's been easier than I thought, actually. I did my last juice fast feast cleanse was 5 days, and that was like earlier this year, probably about a month ago, and it was just way easier than I thought it was. Anybody that's thinking of trying this, I would say the best way is just to start one day and think, do you know what, when I get really, when I can't do it, I'll just eat, you know what I mean? So you're not putting any pressure on yourself. That's exactly what I did. I was like, I might just have some juice for breakfast, because I'd listened to a lot of John Rose. I don't know if people are aware of John Rose. He's changed my life. I literally discovered him last year when I was looking into raw veganism. And the man is a powerhouse. So John Rose, Joel Furman's pretty good as well, I think. Dr. Robert Morse, Gabriel Cousins. All of these people are the main kind of people that I listen to, who are like properly experienced people in terms of raw veganism and fasting and nutrition and wellness and health, and I've learnt an awful lot. And yeah, so what to say? I mean, amazing things I'm finding happening. Like my taste buds are changing. Sometimes do get cravings for food, but it's not like it's possible to deal with it. You know, the cravings come and go. And I'll just have another juice if I get hungry. I'm also having, like, some days I've been drinking up to 2 gallons. That's 8 litres of juice. So, but that's on days when my body needs it. Like, I've been moving a crazy amount of stuff, like into vans and out of vans, and then I'm sort of a bit nomadic when I'm not at work. So I'm kind of like deploying my stuff one place, putting it on the van, driving somewhere else, unloading it all. It's a lot of calories, and then my body tells me what it needs, and I just give it, you know. It's a little bit expensive, I'm not going to lie. On one day I consumed 20 pounds worth of fruit, which, if you can imagine how much fruit that is, that's a lot of fruit. But it's not that bad every day. Usually 7 quid or 10 quid's worth of fruit maybe. Depends if you get deals. Sometimes you go to the supermarket, stuff's reduced and it's extra ripe. That's the brilliant thing. Is like, especially with mangoes, I freaking love mangoes. They're so rich. The mango juice is so rich that it really makes me feel like I can tell the calories have gone in, you know, and I just had 2 mangoes and like most of a watermelon and some spinach and some ginger as well. My body loves ginger at the moment. So yeah, but getting the fruit when it's ripe, because you get more juice out of it, and also just enzymatically, and if that's even a word, in terms of its constituency, it just seems a lot more satiating and a lot more tasty and fulfilling. So I've also been having, as per John Rose, if you look on John Rose, he's got a protocol for how he does it, and part of it is that men should take 2 tablespoons of flaxseed oil per day when they're doing a juice feast. And I just wanted to talk as well on that note about being supervised when you do this, because there are a lot of people that would say, hey, if you're going to go past 10 days or 5 days or whatever, or 2 weeks, you need somebody supervising you. You could get some serious detox symptoms and you could be in trouble, actually. And I'm not going to argue with that. I'm only 3 weeks in. I could still encounter them. I've got a long way to go for my intended duration, which is 92 days, which is what John Rose talks about. Getting the serpent out of the belly, right? The mucoid plaque that's all inside of us. If you don't know about it, go and check out John Rose. His arguments are... it's like something that has been forgotten in society for like thousands of years. It's ridiculous how his whole thing is like cooked food is bad for us, but I'm going to get sidetracked. I'll do that in another video. I just wanted to go back to talking about being supervised, because I haven't been supervised by anyone. But the thing is, what I have done is I've done a lot of research online, and I've looked at a lot of videos, and a lot of other people who have done juice feast, fast cleanse, whatever you want to call it, by themselves, and they seemed okay. And so one thing I would say is that it depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from what they would, SAD, standard American diet, or SED, standard English diet, if you like, of lots of cooked food, lots of processed food, lots of fast food, not even if it's not fast food, but processed food, We're in a culture now where we typically buy stuff in packets, and then we unwrap the packet and stick it in a pizza in the oven, or whatever it is, like a lasagna or in the oven, or different things like tortellini. I used to eat tortellini like it was going out of fashion, and nothing per se bad about these things, but the more I started to learn about food, and I learned about the foods that weren't essentially fruitarian, if it's not a fleshy fruit or leafy greens, yeah, sure, you can get away with eating other stuff like heavy veg or pasta or whatever it is. But once you start to find out about gluten, actually, oh my god, there's a TED talk on gluten. I defy anybody to want to ever eat gluten again after they watch that TED talk. And it's a open and shut case. I mean, doesn't matter if you don't think you're not intolerant, or if you're not celiac. Everybody, every single body should not be eating that stuff. At least that's what the evidence is so heavily suggests that. But most people, again, not abreast of this yet, I don't feel. So much else to it. So in terms of being supervised, it depends where you're coming from. And so there's a transition. There's a brilliant video out there by Rebecca Rosenberg, and she calls herself Texas Fruitarian on YouTube, and it's called How to Transition or something like that from SAD to fruitarian. And I know for most people, a lot of people, fruitarianism is not your end goal, and that's fine, and it doesn't have to be. But what a juice cleanse can do for you, it's just so much. The reason that I've called this thin, sick and nearly died is because I did nearly die last year, actually, and I'm just going to go on to talk about that in a minute. And it's like, so I saw recently re-watched Joe Cross's Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, which is great, but I think that it doesn't really appeal to... He does talk about other people that, might not have his exact condition in different conditions and stuff, but it's typically more aimed at people that are kind of trying to lose weight and overweight. And I think the scope of a juice cleanse, it goes way beyond that, because so you might be able to hear I'm wheezing a little bit at the moment, and I'm trying to deliberately not take inhalers to get rid of that symptom, because I've started learning so much about natural hygiene, and I really do feel that, so from natural hygiene angle, rather than allopathic medicine, which is what the whole of Western medicine is essentially, well, it's the establishment medicine. If you go and see your GP, it's allopathy, right? It's allopathic medicine. They are great at treating symptoms, and they'll give you stuff to treat symptoms. But so from a natural hygiene angle, they would say there's 2 causes of illness only. 1, inadequate nutrition, and 2, excessive toxicity in the body. And if you treat symptoms, you can suppress symptoms with medication and medicine, but the body heals itself fundamentally. And so when you get out of its way, i.e. fasting or intermittent fasting or even juicing, and leaving the GI tract empty, the body has the opportunity to start to heal itself. It makes sense, like Joe Cross says in Fat Sick Nearly Dead, when you're a kid and you're skateboarding and you graze your knee and it's bleeding, you can put a plaster on it, but the knee fixes itself. It's not the plaster that fixes your knee. Your knee fixes itself. So the body will heal itself, right? So any symptoms which it's bringing up is part of its cleansing, purging, healing process. So if you are suppressing those symptoms, you're getting in the way of the body doing its job and you're slowing it down. So the idea is, well, at least, and this is what I've actually found during these 3 weeks, is that I've had symptoms like this. Sometimes I have really bad asthma, this is nothing. You should hear me when the other day, I'm going to do a video when I've got really bad asthma, because it's it's scary. It scares my mum. It scares my family when they see me like that. They're like, geez, that's really bad, So, but then what I find is the asthma gets really bad, and then if I stick with it and I don't, sometimes even if I do take an inhaler, but especially if I don't, then I tend to cough up this massive amounts of mucus. And so Arnold Ehret, I've come across again, he's like somebody in the scene that, well, he's passed away now a long time ago, but he wrote a book called The Mucusless Diet, and he talks about, he was one of the first proponents of the idea that the body creates mucus to encapsulate toxins so that those toxins don't affect cells, tissue, organs. And I concur with that, and I feel like but the thing is, most of us, there's also a brilliant book by Dr. Batman Gelich, which I shouldn't say brilliant book, so I haven't actually read it, but I've watched his lecture, which is based on the book, and it makes so much sense and there's so much wisdom in it. And he wrote a book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water, and also You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. And so when the body doesn't have enough water, it can't do a lot of healing. So, but nevertheless, dry fasting is also really powerful. But anyway, to get back to the point about being supervised, I would say once you listen to enough or people online, like experts and stuff, and once you watch enough people that are doing what you're thinking of doing, which is again why I'm making this, to try and be another one of the many voices that's chorus, that's kind of talking about this kind of thing, because it is transformative, and it can heal almost anything, especially like chronic conditions. By all accounts, watch documentaries like Super Juice Me, see the results of those people that just did juice for a month. Incredible, and this is what I'm seeing. So I don't want it to be misinterpreted that I have this asthma, because already my body is healing my lungs so much. And I'm not saying there's no risk in doing it unsupervised. Sure, there's risk. There's risk with everything, right? And this is why you get these disclaimers at the beginning of all of these alternative medicine videos, because they have to say we can't give this as exact medical advice and blah blah. But look at the status quo. Look at the system as it is. GPs, yeah, sure, they're insured, and they've studied the books and they know what they know. I don't want to get into the problems with the educational system for doctors and nurses, but there's big problems with it, in my opinion. And you might say, well, what do I know? I'm just speaking from maybe 500 to 1,000 hours worth of research online now, stuff that I've picked up over the last 5-10 years. Yeah, when you start looking into it, there's documentaries. All I'm going to say is there's documentaries out there like Cancer: The Forbidden Cures and The Truth About Cancer, Cancer: A Global Quest. Check some of those out. Just see what you think. Watch them and disprove them and still say they're nonsense. Anyway, that's getting sidetracked. But so the supervision thing, yeah, there are risks. But I think when you're sensible about it, if you gather a wide enough base of evidence for yourself, and also, so this is the other thing, So it's about feeling confident, and there's a thing about not fearing the fast. So I've heard John Rose talk about that, about, you can't go into it with fear. And that's why I was saying, like, start off at the beginning of the day and just think to yourself, "Do you know what, I'm just going to have juice for breakfast and see how I go. And see what you can cope with." And by lunchtime, you might feel like, I might just be able to have another juice instead of eating any solid food. And basically, before you know it, if you do the same thing for supper, and maybe one before bed, if you're like me, I've got like a crazy metabolism. My metabolism is always on the go, and I used to think I couldn't do fasting because I'd be like dying of hunger. Like, you don't understand how hungry I get. Really interesting. Didn't really happen like that. All in the head, right? Just have plenty of fruits and vegetables to juice, and you might find what I found, which is that actually it was really doable. I didn't think I'd be able to get to sleep on the first night because I'd be so hungry, and it wasn't a problem. In fact, it's easier to get to sleep and it's easier to wake up. It's really crazy. So in terms of the supervision thing, it depends where you're coming from, and I have to say that before now, so I started this 3 weeks ago. Prior to that, apart from a 5-day juice fast that I did, I've been eating raw vegan for only 1 month. Prior to that, I was eating vegan for probably about 50% raw, salad for lunch, mangoes for breakfast. Actually, that's not true. I was eating muesli and stuff for breakfast with chopped fruit. So this is like 2 months ago. So I've kind of gradually transitioned. Going back, I've been like I tend to do like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. That tends to be my thing. Is like, I'm like, right, I'm going to do that. And then it's like too hard and it's too much. And I'm like, screw it, I can't be bothered. And I'll go back to eating what I was eating before. But gradually over time with that, I am still moving forwards, And so it was only like a year ago that I was still eating, not even, it was like 5 months ago, I was still eating cheese and bread, and a lot of this information has been coming to me. I've, just naturally drawn to this information, and the reason for that is because, I'll tell you that in a minute, but I just wanted to quickly say that in terms of the transition, if you're coming from eating a lot of processed food, and especially if a lot of fast food, sugary foods, fatty, salty foods, you could experience hardcore detox, and like a lot harder than I've experienced. Mine's been really mild. I'm almost disappointed at the mildness of my healing symptoms. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've noticed things like hair regrowth. I'll do that in another video, because I lost my hair because I have alopecia. Lost my hair about 2 years ago due to excessive stress, I think, but also possibly environmental factors, and also habitual scratching, which I think a lot of that definitely came from gluten, because when I cut out gluten, oh my god, my skin, I can't tell you, for my arms to look like that is unheard of. And my hands and my wrists, unbelievable, like the change in my skin and how much less. I'd normally just be scratching myself especially when I was asleep or waking up. So yeah, it's really been transformative, just the whole diet thing, and realising how much diet is totally intrinsic to overall health and well-being and symptoms. It's really been an eye-opener. But yeah, so last year I was, let's say about 8 months ago now, I was smoking cigarettes, I was drinking alcohol, not a lot, but some alcohol probably 2-3 times a week. Eating really terribly, eating like processed foods that I was just buy from supermarkets, like packets of sandwiches and stuff, and spending a lot of time sitting in one place. I converted my own camper van. I was sitting in my van, I was playing a lot of computer games or being online in online forums and stuff. And I wasn't moving, I was sitting in like one position for extended periods of time, sometimes up for like 24 hours, which is just crazy. But regularly, like for like 6 to 8 hours in one position. And surprise, surprise, I had some sort of deep vein thrombosis or something like that that caused me to have a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot in the lung. And luckily it was a small one, but it was hospital, and it was, I don't know, I spent probably 10 days, maybe 2 weeks in hospital. It's probably about 10 days or a week or 10 days in hospital. But but it was scary. I mean, like, even with all the drugs and all the stuff that they gave me to try and loosen up my chest, I was having so much trouble breathing. I cannot tell you. I got up at one point to go to use the loo, and the exertion of walking to this loo cubicle and getting in there and locking the door was so much that I had to like kneel down, and I was on my knees, and my heart, my brain, it's like trying to breathe through a tiny, tiny straw. That's how it felt. I could barely get enough oxygen into my lungs. And I just had this awareness in this one moment where I was like, if I don't, there's a red cord in that corner, either I'm going to pull that now, or if I pass out. I was so close to passing out. You know, in your vision, my vision just freaking blacked out. And so I was like, I just had this instantaneous awareness that like I could die here actually. In fact, if I pass out now, I won't be able to regulate my breathing the way that I consciously am doing. And I will die, because it doesn't matter how quickly someone gets to me. Well, no one would have known because I was in a cubicle, locked in a cubicle. And it came that close, and I think that really scared me actually. And I had so much fluid in my lungs that they had to put a syringe in through my back and extract fluid out of my lungs to give me a chance to be able to breathe a bit better. It was serious, I'm telling you. So when I say thin, sick and nearly died, I did nearly die. Like, it scared me so much that when I came out of hospital, the first thing I did was smoke a fucking cigarette, and I just went straight back to smoking because I was in denial and I just couldn't deal with it. And it wasn't until like a month later, 6 weeks later or something, or even 2 months, where I was like, this is not, what the fuck am I doing? Excuse my French, what am I doing? You know, I was like, I need to change something, really. And I think often that's what needs to happen. I saw on one of these Facebook groups the other day, someone had put a quote from Hippocrates, and it said, it said, before you propose to heal a man or heal somebody, ask them if they're willing to give up the behaviours that made them sick in the first place. And I think that's just such a critical point, because lots of people aren't, people that have got illnesses and stuff. A member of my family, type 2 diabetes, I've told him, like, there's so much evidence, a plant-based diet can actually reverse that. Check out Michael Greger and all his stuff, Dr. Michael Greger. But this individual doesn't want to change. They like their chocolate, they like their sugary foods, they like their processed foods, they like their fatty foods. What can you do? It's an individual choice. People have been saying to me for years, like, you've got asthma and you smoke, that's really not a good combination. You could really do yourself in like this. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but, I enjoy smoking. So I do get it, and I think sometimes it takes a close call for people to really decide to change. And but the crazy thing is that it's actually so liberating. Like, we feel like it wouldn't be, but actually it's amazingly liberating, I feel. So yeah, just in terms of, there has been tough points here in this first 3 weeks. And just in terms of like cravings and the body wanting food, I suppose. But overall it's been really, really good.